Isaiah 58 verses 6 to 12, true fasting and God's promises. 1. The wrong view of fasting. Isaiah 58 verse 6. In this passage, God corrects the Israelites' misunderstanding of fasting. They thought that simply abstaining from food and bowing their heads in humility was enough to please Him. However, God makes it clear that true fasting is not just about religious rituals, but about actively doing good, breaking chains of injustice, setting people free, and fighting against oppression. This challenges us today to ask, is our worship focused only on personal devotion? Or does it lead us to love and serve others? 2. Setting the oppressed free. Isaiah 58 verse 6. God calls His people to break every yoke of oppression. This means fighting against any system, habit, or practice that enslaves or mistreats others. Whether it is social injustice, modern slavery, corruption, or personal sins. God desires a world where people experience freedom. Christians are called not only to pray, but only to have action in defending the rights. 3. Feeding the hungry and clothing the poor. Isaiah 58 verse 7. God asks His people to share their food, provide shelter, and clothe those in need. This verse highlights that true faith must be practical. It's not enough to worship and pray while ignoring the needs of the suffering. This mirrors Jesus' teaching in Matthew 25 verses 35 to 40, where He says that whatever we do for the least of these, we do for Him. 4. The light of righteousness. Isaiah 58 verse 8. When we live with justice and compassion, God promises that our light will break forth like the dawn. This means that righteousness brings clarity, direction, and blessing, just as the sunrise dispels darkness. A life lived in love and integrity transforms individuals and communities. It leads to healing, restoration, and peace. 5. God's presence in answered prayers. Isaiah 58 verse 9. Many people feel that God does not answer their prayers. Here, He promises, "Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and He will say, 'Here I am.'" The key to answered prayer is righteousness and selfless living. When we align our hearts with God's purposes, helping the needy, rejecting oppression, and loving others, He draws near to us. 6. Removing oppression and false accusations. Isaiah 58 verse 9. God calls His people to stop pointing fingers and speaking wicked words. This refers to false accusations, gossip, and destructive criticism. Words have the power to hurt or heal. If we desire God's favor, we must use our words to build up rather than tear down, to encourage rather than condemn. 7. Generosity leads to blessing. Isaiah 58 verse 10. When we give to the hungry and care for the afflicted, our light will rise in darkness, and our night will become like noonday. This is a promise of joy, clarity, and divine presence. Darkness represents confusion, fear, and despair. But when we walk in love and generosity, God's light leads us, even in tough times. 8. God's guidance and provision. Isaiah 58 11. God promises to guide us continually, satisfy our needs, and strengthen us. He compares the righteous to a well-watered garden. This means that those who trust in Him and live justly will always be nourished, refreshed, and flourishing. Even in times of drought spiritually or physically, God will sustain them. 9. Restoring ruins and rebuilding lives. Isaiah 58 12. The passage ends with a powerful promise. God's people will rebuild ancient ruins and restore broken places. This means that when we live in obedience to God, caring for others, and fighting for justice that He will use us to broken families, communities, and societies. 10. The connection between righteousness and favor. Many people seek God's blessings, but ignore His call to justice and love. Isaiah 58 reveals that God's favor is not for those who perform religious rituals, while neglecting the poor and oppressed. Instead, blessings come when faith leads to action. 11. The challenge of living out this passage. God's message in Isaiah 58 is a challenge to beliefs. Are we content with religious activities, or are we actively seeking justice? Do we care for the needy, or do we only focus on personal spiritual growth? Are we helping to restore and rebuild broken lives around us? 12. The heart of true worship. This passage teaches that true worship is not just about prayer, fasting, or attending church. It is about loving people the way God loves them. It means standing for justice, helping the poor, and making the world more like God's kingdom. 13. The role of the church today. Churches should not just be places of worship, but also centers of transformation. They should be involved in feeding the hungry, housing the homeless, educating the poor, and fighting against injustice. This is the kind of worship that pleased God. 14. Isaiah 58 and Jesus' ministry. Jesus lived out the message of Isaiah 58 perfectly. He fed the hungry, healed the sick, welcomed outcasts, and condemned oppression. He fulfilled Isaiah's prophecy by bringing light to the darkness and calling His followers to do the same. 15. The promise of God's blessings. He promises light in darkness, guidance and wisdom, healing and restoration, spiritual and physical renewal, His presence and answers to prayer, strength and refreshment like a well-watered garden, the power to rebuild and restore communities. 16. A call to action. Isaiah 58 is a call to action. It is an invitation to live a faith that transforms lives. God calls His people to stand for justice, show mercy, and be a light in a broken world. God calls us for compassion, sharing food with the hungry, provident shelter for the poor, and clothing the naked and fighting for the oppressed. Thanks for watching.